Wednesday night was the first New York City mayor's debate featuring folks like Zohran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo. Everyone else was kind of just there except Eric Adams, and I'm not trying to disrespect the rest of the field, but this is really a two-horse race at this point between Cuomo and Zohran. Zohran has closed the lead tremendously over the last couple of weeks just by his effective communication, his prevalence on social media, and also his actual plan to fix New York City while also not being an establishment politician. He once trailed Cuomo by anywhere from 30 to 40 percentage points, and heading into the debate, that deficit was down to 8% in the aftermath of the debate, which got overshadowed by the Trump and Elon breakup. AOC endorsed Zohran for mayor of New York City. As we know, she is a New York City representative, not only has 14 million followers on Twitter, but is the most or second most progressive voice in Congress. Her endorsement matters, and we will get to that a little bit more. We do have a little bit of reporting on this endorsement, courtesy of an ABC affiliate once this fucking ad passes. Now, there was a little bit of hubbub surrounding this endorsement, or I should say leading up to this endorsement, because, Zohran had been campaigning for a couple months, and neither AOC nor Bernie Sanders had said anything, which is weird. You have the two, we'll call them socialists, even though they aren't really socialists. We have the two most recognizable socialists in the United States of America. And there is someone from their ideology who is running to be the most powerful person in the largest city in the United States of America. Not only that, arguably the most recognizable city on the planet. Being the mayor of New York City brings tremendous notoriety to go along with its extensive responsibility, right? So people were they were kind of just waiting. They were waiting. We don't know what the rationale was. I think maybe they were waiting to see if Zohran was actually worth endorsing, if he was actually able to close the gap on Cuomo, which he did. And maybe they just wanted him to be able to generate all of that momentum himself and build an actual grassroots movement. Because remember, Zohran is very new to electoral politics. He's only been a state assemblyman for a short period of time. Cuomo tried to use this as a dig against him in their debate, which did not land. But his lack of experience isn't really a detriment, I don't think, because above all else, he is a lifelong New York City resident, or at least for as long as he's lived in the United States. That's enough of a qualifier for fellow New Yorkers. The only downside about not being an elected official for so long is that you haven't had the opportunity to build this grassroots coalition like AOC has, or like Bernie Sanders has.
City mayor. With just a few weeks to go until the primary, 9 Democratic candidates faced off for their first debate. The debate included attacks on the frontrunner, former Governor Andrew Cuomo. Eyewitness News reporter Phil Tate is live at City Hall. And Phil, one of the candidates just picked up a big endorsement, isn't that right?
Yeah, Tanya, that's right. One of the most progressive voices, if not the most progressive voice here in New York. Congressmember Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has endorsed Assembly member Zohran Mamdani. The big question this morning is, what impact will this have on the race, as he's already broken through in the polls? And this comes after last night's debate, as he, along with so many other candidates, had spoke out on several issues important to New Yorkers as they'll head to the polls in just a couple of weeks for the June primary. Now, several of these issues were from public safety, housing, and even dealing with President Trump and the administration when it comes to the city. All in just 30 seconds, they had to answer these questions. Now, as 9 candidates vie for the party's nomination, it appears 8 of the candidates went after one of the race's main frontrunners, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, criticizing him on a number of issues, from his management over the coronavirus.
Cuomo was getting absolutely and rightfully shit on by virtually all of the other candidates. Why Andrew Cuomo is even running for New York City mayor, I don't know. Just kidding. I know why, because he, much like every other establishment politician, is remarkably narcissistic. He cannot read the room. He is trying to revive his political career, even though he has already disgraced himself when he was governor of New York State by fumbling the COVID crisis, more specifically by killing elderly people, by directly killing elderly people with his COVID era policy. That's also not to mention, or that's also like me forgetting to mention all of the blatant corruption charges that have existed all throughout his tenure in electoral politics.
Pandemic, sexual harassment allegations that caused his early exit
those
from the
as well.
governor's
Yes,
office.
all
Let's take a listen
the
to
numerous sexual assault allegations that came out against him as well. Like, this guy is just a freak. He needs to go away. He does not have to be the mayor of New York City. We don't need an Italian Eric Adams, okay?
a bit of last night's showdown.
One of my regrets is having trusted the leaders within our own party, leaders like Andrew Cuomo.
The people who don't feel safe are young women, mothers, and grandmothers around Andrew Cuomo. That's the greatest threat to public safety in New York City.
That was a fucking banger. By far. Listen, I love Zohran, and I think that he performed exceptionally well in the debate. I know that I'm obviously a little biased, but that was probably the dig of the night.
It's not only that Andrew Cuomo lied to Congress, which is perjury, he also lied to the grieving families whose loved ones he sent into those nursing homes to protect his $5 million book deal. Andrew Cuomo has the nerve to talk about defund when he signed the bail reform bill with loopholes that you didn't even read.
No regrets when it comes to cutting child care. No regrets when it comes to slow walking PPE and vaccinations in the season of COVID to Black and brown communities. Yeah. Really, no regrets.
Yeah, none of these candidates really held back last night. And while some
dude, cook this motherfucker. Honestly, like, shame him. Shame him. That's the only appropriate outcome in this.
Of them look to knock Andrew Cuomo off his game. The former governor only seemed to target just one candidate, that's State Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani, the only challenger to break through in the polls. Let's take a listen.
Donald Trump would go through Mr. Mamdani like a hot knife through butter. He's been in government 27 minutes. He passed 3 bills.
The difference between myself and Andrew Cuomo is that my campaign is not funded by the very billionaires who put Donald Trump in D.C.
Now, we'll have to see how this endorsement plays out for Mamdani and the impact that it could have. Now, one person who was noticeably not on that stage was Mayor Adams. He'll be running as an independent and looks to meet whoever is able to pick up the Democratic nomination in the general election come this November. We are live outside of City Hall this morning. I'm Phil Tate, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
You might have heard him going through a little.
I'm very optimistic about Zohran's chances to become the next mayor of New York City. I know that I probably shouldn't be, but New Yorkers very clearly are responding well to Zohran. That's what the polling indicates. He has made this mayoral race an actual race. I also think that his policy plan resonates with New Yorkers because he acknowledges the various problems that plague New York City. He is focused on dealing with them, whether it be the public transit, whether that be public safety. He has a plan for virtually every aspect of the city. It also helps, of course, that he is from New York City and that he represents areas of the Bronx and Queens, and he can get direct feedback from his constituents. It also helps that the incumbent, Eric Adams, and the frontrunner, Andrew Cuomo, are remarkably unpopular. I just cannot envision New Yorkers going out and voting for either Andrew Cuomo or Eric Adams. I simply just do not see it. They both have negative public image. They both have a negative public image perception. Neither of them have a plan to do anything. Eric Adams has been mayor and the city has not improved in really any way. People in New York City still feel unsafe despite Eric Adams pledging to put more cops on the street. He hasn't done anything to address the increasing cost of living. He also does have big moneyed interests, and I think people recognize that, not only with him but with Andrew Cuomo as well. They recognize that. How is this guy gonna freeze the rent if he's bought and paid for by the real estate lobby? And this is something that Mamdani mentioned in the debate as well. Every time someone targeted him, or every time the moderators had a pointed question at him, he had a very well thought out and a very sensible answer. And that includes this disgusting attack on him when it came to asking about Israel. Fireworks at New York City mayoral debate when progressive candidate is asked, quote, "Do you believe in a Jewish state of Israel?" The lead up to this question is remarkably fucking stupid. The moderators should be ashamed of themselves for even thinking that this is an acceptable line of questioning. What they asked all of these candidates was, what is the first foreign country you would visit as the mayor of New York City? Why is the mayor making trips, diplomatic trips to other countries? That is not something that state and local leaders do. Could you imagine? Now, I know this is New York City. It's the perception is very different. But could you imagine if they asked the mayor of Burlington, Vermont, what fucking country he was going to go to after he became mayor? No, that is not your mayoral duty. If you were that's not even your senatorial duty. That type of shit, like foreign policy, is a federal. Foreign policy is under the jurisdiction of the federal government and should only go insofar as the executive branch. It's weird when we see senators making these diplomatic trips overseas. Like, that's not your fucking job. Your job is to work for the best possible legislation to benefit your community. Everyone gave an answer, right? I don't fucking remember anyone's except Jessica Ramos. She said she would go to Colombia, which I think, like, that's fine. Like, who cares? Maybe Zohran still gave the best answer, where he said, I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm going to stay here and run the city. This is courtesy of Mediaite. Unfortunately, we do not have a video for some reason. Progressive New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani sparked fireworks from his opposing candidates during Wednesday night's debate when asked if he supported, quote, a Jewish state of Israel. Mind you, this developed from a very simple question. Where would you go on your first foreign trip as mayor of New York City? And the moderators targeted him. And do not get it twisted. This was done purposefully because he was the only Muslim candidate on there. He also has the most anti-Israel view of anyone running for mayor of New York City. Mamdani, who is currently polling second behind former Governor Andrew Cuomo, has been attacked in the race for his stance on the Israel-Hamas conflict and over his membership in the Democratic Socialists of America. Whitney Tilson, a pro-Israel businessman, released a scathing attack ad against Mamdani this week, claiming he's running to, quote, defend the police, create consequences for genocidal Zionist imperialism, and to abolish capitalism. This is just, like, simply not true. Defund the police as an attack on Zohran is really fucking useless because this guy is very open about his wanting and his willingness to create a new Department of Public Safety. He's looking to expand not the NYPD in particular, but the public safety apparatus. He's not looking to just put more cops on the street. He's looking to replace those cops with mental health professionals who can respond to people who are in mental health crises. He's looking to put these kinds of people on the subway to, again, deal with people who are experiencing mental health crises. He's not looking to take the NYPD officers off of the subway. He is just looking to add additional help to them to alleviate, not to alleviate, but to compensate for what those officers are not trained to do. At one point during the debate, the moderator asked the candidate where their first overseas trip would be to. I would go to Israel, Cuomo replied. Mr. Tilson, where would you go? Asked one of the moderators. Yeah, I'd make my 4th trip to Israel, followed by my 5th trip to Ukraine, 2 of our greatest allies fighting on the front lines of the global war on terror, Tilson replied. Mr. Mamdani, asked the moderator, I would stay in New York City. My plans are to address New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs and focus on that. Like, that's a fine answer. You're the mayor of New York City. It is your job to run New York City. How the fuck does going to Israel or going to Italy or going to goddamn South Korea, how does that impact the lives of New Yorkers? There's literally no reason for you to be doing any of that. And he was fucking attacked. Mr. Mamdani, can I jump in? Would you visit Israel as a mayor? Like, this is just a fucking stupid question to ask. The fucking Zionist media apparatus is so horny to tear down this guy, all because he has a little bit of motion in mayoral politics. Quote, I will be doing, as the mayor, I'll be standing up for Jewish New Yorkers, and I'll be meeting them wherever they are across the 5 boroughs, whether that's in their synagogues and temples or at their homes or at the subway platform, because ultimately we need to focus on delivering on their concerns. And just yes or no, do you believe in a Jewish state of Israel? Pressed the moderator. I believe Israel has the right to exist as Israel. I believe Israel has the right to exist, Mamdani replied as the moderator asked, as a Jewish state, as a state with equal rights. This is a very fair and balanced answer. He didn't say, no, Israel does not have the right to exist, which is also an acceptable answer, but maybe not one that plays so well politically at this point. At this point in time, maybe a little bit later on, that will be a little bit more politically advantageous. But in this breath, he is acknowledging that Jewish people are allowed to have their own place to reside. He is also acknowledging that Israel is currently an apartheid state, which every human rights organization has pointed to. Palestinians who live in Israel proper are not subjected to or do not have the same civil liberties as Israeli Jews. And there is legislation within Israel that explicitly permits this based on hierarchy. To say that Israel is an apartheid state in June of 2025 is not a hot take. It is simply the reality of the situation. And Zohran danced around that beautifully. He acknowledged the unjust nature of Israel's occupation without potentially turning off Jewish voters, which is not something that I think he should be worried about. The second largest Jewish population exists in New York City. American Jews tend not to be as Zionist as Israeli Jews. They still love Israel, but they may not view Netanyahu's government they may not view Netanyahu's government with much approval because they're doing a goddamn genocide, right? Additionally, American Jews are facing increased anti-Semitism because of Israel, yes, but also because of the American media apparatus and the American political figures conflating Zionism with Judaism, which is a disgusting conflation and one that I try to highlight whenever I do talk about Israel. Judaism is a religion. Zionism is a political ideology based upon the existence of a fascist ethno-state. Zionism is directly at odds with Judaism. The increased anti-Semitism comes because these actors have been conditioned to view Israel as Judaism, which it is not. Additionally, Zohran has stated before that he has a plan to implement anti-hate programming, which is an educational program that explains what I just explained to you. These programs have proven to be effective, but New York City has never implemented them to the degree that they need to exist. The article continues, he won't say it has a right to exist as a Jewish state. Be very clear on that, jumped in another of the 9 candidates on stage, because his answer is no, he won't visit Israel. You're Italian, dude. Who gives a fuck? Like, who gives a shit, man? Who gives a shit about Israel? If there was any other, like, if this is so mind-boggling to me. If it was literally any other country that American politicians rode dick this hard for, it would be severely off-putting to virtually everybody. Could you imagine if Andrew Cuomo was dick riding France to this degree? He would be made fun of. He would have been laughed off the goddamn stage. But no, like, you're allowed to just suck the fucking meat off of Israel. And like, you don't look, and like, people think that they don't look weird doing this. Like, the establishment does not think that this is weird, even though at this point supporting Israel is no longer politically advantageous. I said that directly. Mamdani replied as another candidate insisted. That's what he was trying to say. As the candidates spoke over each other, Mamdani hit back at Cuomo. No. Unlike you, I answered the question very directly. I believe every state should be of equal rights. Mamdani concluded amid the crosstalk. Again, a very balanced take. Yeah, apartheid states should not exist. Israel is very openly an apartheid state. Where's the disconnect here? The disconnect exists amongst the establishment politicians because of AIPAC and the Israel lobby, but also because of the conflation with Zionism and Judaism.